In this video, I'm going to be comparing the Phantom of the Opera franchise to the Mission Impossible franchise. Reason for this, because in part 1 of the series, I compared The Conjuring Shared Universe to Mission Impossible 1. When I compared Phantom of the Opera to Pirates of the Caribbean, Phantom of the Opera 1, so now I'm going to compare those two franchises. When it comes to Mission Impossible, the second most recent one of these movies, pretty sure that one's Fallout, has a 98%. We look at Phantom of the Opera, the 1925 black and white silent film has a 90%. We look at lowest score, the second Mission Impossible movie only has a 56%. The 2004 version of Phantom of the Opera, along with this more gory version from 1989, both have a 33%. We look at average score, Mission Impossible has an average of 82, Phantom of the Opera has an average of 56. We look at gap between lowest and highest score. In the case of Phantom of the Opera, it's a gap of 57. In the case of Mission Impossible, you have a gap of 42 actually. So Mission Impossible has won every round so far, thus it will be winning this debate regardless of my personal opinion. Let's look at that now. I'm not particularly familiar with Mission Impossible at the moment. I've seen the first movie, but not the others. I've seen the black and white version of Phantom of the Opera from 1925. It's one of the only silent movies I've seen. I have the 2004 version of the story on DVD actually, and in fact I have the book in my room. I haven't seen the other versions of this story. I definitely have nostalgia for 2004 Phantom of the Opera, as you can guess based on what I just said. I've sung songs from it multiple times before. I think the book is very interesting. In the original story, for example, you have a character called the Persian, who's the one person that knows the Phantom, or Eric, as he calls himself, better than others, thus knows how the traps, illusions work, and so is able to guide Raoul through the lower levels of the opera house. In fact, guides Raoul through the torture chamber. In the 2004 version of the story, there isn't a torture chamber. Also, Raoul is more likable. The original book, Raoul is not as likable. He's more irritating. Also, the Phantom's disfigurement is much more severe, to the point where he's like a living skeleton. But you look at 2004 Phantom of the Opera, and his disfigurement is very not severe. I mean, you look at it, it doesn't even cover half his face. Well, it only covers half his face when trying to say, and it looks like little more than a bad sunburn. It doesn't look very severe at all, so it's less believable that everybody would shun him this much, everyone would hate him this much. It's like, yeah, this isn't very bad at all. We're only talking about half his face, and it's just a bad sunburn. Who really cares? Also, I think that doesn't make sense in this version that the managers choose Carlotta, considering everybody loves Christine. There are certainly good songs in this movie. I think there are good visuals. I like the way this movie is structured. If it starting off in the future, we see the opera house at a point in time where it's in disrepair. All these things are being sold off at auction. And then when the chandelier is revealed, we flash back to when the opera house was at its peak, when these new managers came into the picture. And then throughout the movie, there are these scenes where we flash forward to this future. The flash forward scenes are in black and white. We learn at the end Raoul is now going to Christine's grave. He and Christine got married, and then she died of old age, and now he's heading over to her grave. I think the ending of this movie is quite powerful. But in regards to how good of an adaptation is it of the book or the musical, and not really that good an adaptation. I thought it was very interesting watching the silent movie, because in that case, whenever there was text that showed up on screen, which was basically showing you what the characters were saying, I would read that. There wasn't text on screen, I was actually talking. Usually, if I'm watching a movie, I try to talk as little as possible so I don't miss anything. But when the movie doesn't have any actual dialogue in it, when there's no noise, then that isn't actually a problem. It definitely seems like Mission Impossible franchise is more consistent. Obviously, it's one that more people are talking about right now because a new movie just came out in 2023. We haven't gotten any new version of Phantom of the Opera that's widely known by a lot of people in recent times. Personally, I would choose Phantom of the Opera just because of the fact that I'm more familiar with this franchise, but Mission Impossible is going to be winning. However, they'll wrap things up for this video.